What's your quilting plan for the new year? Hi, I'm Roberta from Quilt Crafters Corner, and today I want to talk a little bit about our quilting plans for this coming year. Now, I like to go back and reflect on all the quilts that I made in the past year. This past year, I made over 20 quilts, and 17 of them actually were finished, quilt bound and off on their way. So that means I have about 3, maybe 4, I'm not positive about that, but I have 3 for sure, maybe 4, that still need to be quilted. So I still have those on my list to finish. Now, when I talk about a quilting plan, I talk about this in general. What do I want to learn? What do I want to explore more of? Or maybe even expand ideas that I thought about, but I haven't really had a chance to do. Now, these are all ideas that I've had that I want to work on. So how do I go about doing this? My plan for the next year in quilting has to do with my growth, my learning, my development of what I enjoy doing. And I want to encourage you to make this plan also for yourself. This gives me a path to follow and stay on, and maybe even expand a little. So let's talk about that path that I want to go down. So when I look at the quilts that I made over the last year, I look at the techniques that I learned and some of the things that made these quilts unique for me. And I made several log cabin quilts last year. I made several unique, different styles that I've never done before. I worked on a series of quilts, and I worked on something that I was a little bit out of my comfort zone, and it wasn't something that I would normally do. And these are all quilts that I thought would challenge me, that would give me a new perspective on quilting. When I look at those quilts and I think back, oh, this is what I learned from the log cabins. I learned many things from the log cabin quilts that I made. I learned many things from the scrap quilts that I made. The series of teddy bear quilts that I made helped me understand low volume versus the dark volume of fabric and how to make those things work together. So looking forward to the next year, where do I want to expand my quilting to? I want to expand into maybe a style, a specific style that I haven't touched yet. Or maybe it's just working on the quilting itself. Really develop that quilting in those negative spaces that I can make that quilting stand out, which then makes the quilt stand out. The other thing that I'm looking at is that artistic value that's in each quilt that we made. It kind of defines our soul, our purpose, the joy that we have for quilting. That all comes out in our quilts. One more thing that I'm looking forward to doing this year is actually making more time for quilting. Schedule it. Have it there that it's part of my routine. It's a regular routine that I do in my schedule so that I know I have time for myself. Because let's face it, we as human beings have a tendency to take care of everyone else and not ourselves. So I really want to take that time for myself and create that artistic value in quilts that I love so much. So let's talk a little bit about defining your quilt plan. So what do you want to make? I know I have a list, and on this list, it's actually a digital file on my computer, that I have a list of all these quilts that I want to make with either the idea or part of a pattern that I want to incorporate into an idea or things like that. The other great thing you could do is a Pinterest board just on quilt ideas, and then look through that and see what really strikes you. What do you want to make? What do you want to see in your next quilt? Now, time is always a big issue for quilters. They always say, I don't have enough time to do that, to sit down and do that. That's why I want to encourage you to make this plan, because if you have a plan and you find yourself with a half hour or an hour, you can sit down and go, oh, let me pick that and start working on that. And just doing that, having that plan where you don't have to think about, okay, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get this? Already, if you have the plan, you have the idea, you can get started on it rather quickly. The other thing that really helps me with my quilting is having other people to collaborate with. Talk about the ideas that I have and see what they think. And I have a group of people that I do this with, and we have times where we sit down and we just talk about what we're working on and where we're going with these quilts. Now, if you don't have somebody to keep you accountable, just wait. I've got something coming for you, and you'll see we'll have a group where we can sit down and we can talk about quilting and doing some of these ideas that are really fun to do. Not to mention, they help us learn and expand our quilting skills. So if this is something that you want to talk more about, leave me a comment. Let me know. Do you have a plan? Do you have a list of quilts that you want to make this year? Or maybe do you want to expand your horizons on actually doing the quilting yourself, doing that free motion quilting, and maybe making that quilt something spectacular? Do you schedule out your quilting time? When? Let me know. I'd love to know when you schedule your quilting time and what makes it easier for you just to sit down and sew. And lastly, do you have somebody that you love to sit down and quilt with? Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So these are all some really simple ideas to get you on a path to start to learn and grow with your quilting this year. This all expands our knowledge, our confidence, and we have an end result that we are usually thrilled with. It is something that we made, and it's all from the love that we have, not only for the material and the fabric, but the quilt itself, the finished project. That last stitch, you hold that quilt up and you know that you made it. These are all really helpful ideas to get you on the right quilting path. So if this is something you like, please leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you think. And also, if you'd like to join me, come over to the Quilter Swarm on Facebook. We still have the group there, and join there and show us what you're working on. Until next time, keep quilting.